It has been forever since we put up a life update. I was trying to like do every week and it was going okay, and then everything hit the fan in my life. So, the last time I talked and the last time I got on for a live, I'm gonna adjust this camera just like a touch. The last time I got on for a live when we chatted, I was just headed. My floor is making a lot of noise. I just headed to my final exams, so I was pretty excited, pretty stoked, and then hold on, let's get this going here a little bit. Here we go. But yeah, final exams were just about on the go. We were just in like the headlong rush into them. I had about a week and a half left, and everything literally exploded that week. For those of you guys that don't know, I decided to go back to high school to upgrade so that I can go back for my nursing. And nursing is an extremely, I don't have any words today. Competitive. That's the word I was going for. It's extremely competitive to get into. So the core marks that you need for the classes that they require, so biology, science, or chemistry, either way, math and English, all the 30 level, all needs to be a 95, or sort of like low to mid 90s is kind of where they're going for. So I kind of set out for myself as a goal as though I wanted like 95% or higher, and let's go do this. And I ended up taking science, English, and bio at the 30 level, and then I backtracked a little bit for math and went back to math 20, which is the grade 11 math here. I did it because it's been a long time since I looked at any of that. The bio stuff I've looked at, science stuff I've looked at, some of that's bio as well. English I'm still using. But math, I did like an online estimator of how good your math skills were, and I did okay until it asked me what a quadratic function was. No. So I had to backtrack and go back to math 20. I got my final marks in, and so for the first three, so for bioscience and English, I had a 96% average running in all three of them. Anywhere from 96.0 to 96.8, which was my bio mark. So I felt pretty good about that. And then yesterday I wrote my final exam for the math 20. And this afternoon I got my final mark back for my math as well, and I got an even 95% on it. So I'm pretty freaking stoked, not gonna lie. I don't know if I quite needed that high, but I met the mark I was wanting to achieve. It was not easy. 95% is like nearly perfect, which is not the type of person I am. I'm good. That's where I sit. You know what I mean? Like, I can do like mid to low 90s on like a pretty decent basis with some studying in and be okay. 95 was a bit much. There was a lot of studying. There one nearly broken down moment there. And we kind of collected ourselves back up and we did okay. So, hi by the way, for who just joined in. Let me know where you come from, by the way. Where you're from in the either in the messaging box in the video or in the comment section down below if you're watching this later. I just like to know. It's just personally nerdy. But yeah, so next semester, now that this one is fully over, and I go back to doing like regular stuff again. Oh, Washington, cool, hi. So next semester I'm going to do the math 30, so I have to get the grade 12 level of math now. So again, I'm aiming for that like sort of 95% or higher mark. Math is not my strong suit. We'll see how that goes. And then for the other two classes, so I'm in open studies, I'm going to do anatomy, just the basic one, and then Psych 104, which I'm super stoked about. I love psych calls. I work as a paramedic, for those of you guys that don't know, and I love being a paramedic. I love what I do. I like helping people, and to be honest with you, I love a good solid psych. Like, paranoid schizophrenics are probably my favorite patients. They're just so unique, from like even one schizophrenic to another. There's such a variety in how they act and who they are and all that kind of stuff, and I find that really entertaining for me. And really interesting. And so you really enjoy that kind of stuff. So Psych 104 I'm pretty excited about. Hopefully I'll learn some new stuff and some new skills and some basic knowledge that I can kind of set up behind what I know. There's not really a lot in paramedic school in regards to mental health stuff and psychology, but we see it a lot in the ambulance. And the reason we don't cover it a whole lot is because there's not really a lot of treatments I can do for it. I don't have the medication to do it. I don't really have a whole lot. The advanced care paramedics can knock people out if they're aggressive and psych patients. So if they're going to be a danger to themselves or to others, they can kind of give them some medication to kind of just simmer that down a little bit. But that's not me, and that's not what I do. So I don't have that adult level of paramedic. I'm just sort of like a baby level. EMT intermediate if you're in the States. Primary care paramedic if you're in Canada. That's kind of where I sit. But I love doing a psych call. And then for the anatomy class, I'm actually really concerned about this one. Because as a paramedic, we don't learn anatomy. We learn anatomy and physiology, and they kind of go hand in hand. And it's sort of a stepping stone thing. So at the sort of base level in our province, we have the emergency medical responder. And their level of anatomy and physiology is pretty much like, this is your liver, this is where it is in your body, it filters your blood. This is your kidneys, this is where they are, they also filter your blood to make urine. That's pretty much it. It's like the basics. Like grade 12 bio, and you're good for EMR. EMT gets a little more intensive. So the EMT, or the primary care paramedic that I became when I went back to school the last time, they have a lot more in depth. So these are kidneys, this is how all the tubules work, this is how it filters your blood. These are some kidney issues you could have. Not a big deal. Little blurbs about different kinds of like basic kidney issues we might see, like kidney stones and that kind of stuff. You get into paramedic, like the advanced care paramedic, which is a level I have not done before. And from what I understand, they kind of like chunk the body into sections. So you spend like, in some of the schools anyways, the school I was looking into going to a couple years ago when I was looking at going back, they do have like a 2-week section. We spend the whole 2 weeks talking all about like just your heart. We talk about ECGs, we talk about what your heart looks like, how everything flows through the body, blah, 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 how the heart functions, how the heart messes up, and how to fix it and put it back together again. And so we kind of cover like all in one sort of grouping. So to go back to university, and I'm only going to talk about just anatomy, and anatomy is only the structure. Physiology is how it works. And then pathophysiology is how it breaks. It's kind of how it breaks down. I'm used to studying that kind of all together. That's not how it works anymore. And I'm kind of freaked out. I don't know how I'm going to learn how the body is structured and then not how it functions at the same time, because that makes sense in my head. Maybe I'm broken. So it works out that I'm doing anatomy this semester, and then they have physiology broken down into 2 parts, so it's a 2-semester kind of course. So I take the first semester of it in the winter time, leading into the summer of next year. And then I'll take the second one eventually. And then after that, in about your 3rd year of nursing, they do a pathophysiology course. So all about how it breaks and sort of how we put it back together at that point. But I'm a little bit weirded out, so I don't really know how this is going to go. We're going to have to figure it out. But, I don't know. Maybe our weekly updates will have like the random thing I learned about today in nursing school. And we'll just throw up random little points of things that I never knew were a thing. You never know. I learn all the time that some of the knowledge that I have in my head has been there for so long that other people don't know it. Which is sort of like a weird way of sitting, but sometimes when you've done something for so long, you just sort of expect that other people know. Especially when, for me, it's a really basic thing. Like, I didn't know that everybody didn't know that knuckle bandages were supposed to go on knuckles and fingertip bandages are for fingers. I thought everybody knew that, but it turns out because they don't write the name on the bandage, people don't realize that there's even a difference between what a knuckle bandage and what a fingertip bandage look like, or what they're for. So, I guess you learn something new every day. So, maybe we'll do a little bit of like interesting stuff that way, just because why not? And we can. But yeah, so that's pretty much where we're at life update wise. I finished the math exam yesterday. That's officially the end of all of the summer courses that I've had, so that's officially done. And my regular classes, so the other 3 other than math, ended on, I believe, the 27th or so. I had our final exams. So I've been kind of free and clear for a little bit now. It feels so long ago. Like, I don't know how we hit August 24th already. I'm like, I have a little bit of time. I do not. It's gone. I don't know where the time went. It just kind of like, and right went by me. I was teaching a class last week. I'm back to work now, so I'm back to teaching first aid. I've been on the ambulance sort of while in school, like 1 shift per weekend. And that was pretty much it. And I gave up teaching for a little while just so I could like be home and do all the stuff I needed to do, just because I was taking so many courses at once. And so now I'm back to work, and I love it. I miss it. I do enjoy what I do for a living. It is weird being back full time and not just sitting in my house and like rolling downstairs at 5 minutes before the clock hits in order to do my next class, but there we are. And the other thing I didn't notice until like 2 days ago is that yesterday was my anniversary. So good for me. I almost forgot. I'm not saying that that's the part in my marriage that I'm the one who misses, but I'm definitely the guy who forgets what our anniversary is. I remember the date. I just don't remember what day today is, I think is my biggest problem. I think it was a couple of years ago, I looked at my husband and I was like, wow, can you really believe we've been married for 2 years? And he looked at me, he's like, you've been married for 3, right? Maybe? Like, I remember what year we got married in, but I can't math to what year this year is and then count up how many we're at. And I don't know why that's a thing. Apparently I can get like 95% in math 20, but I can't subtract 2017 from 2014 and figure out that the difference is 3 years. Yeah, so I did that. But yesterday was 7 years for us, so I'm pretty excited. We've been through a ton of ups and downs between like the infertility stuff and now me going back to school, and my husband was unemployed last year, and we have spent an entire year stuck in quarantine in the house where neither one of us was really working a whole lot. I ended up going back on the ambulance quite a bit more, but for the first like 3 months when everybody canceled their vacation, we just there wasn't anywhere extra to kind of grab a shift into. There's 3 months there where neither one of us worked, and we just sat in our house and then stared at each other. I don't have a very big house. I'd like to point out, I live in like 960 square feet. It's not a big home. It's lovely, it's ours, it has a nice big backyard for my dog, but it's not a big house. So my husband sat in the office and played video games, and I sat in this part of the house and I watched TV in the living room. And every time one of us would get up, we'd like bypass each other, like, hey, how you doing? Quick kiss. Do you need anything while I'm up? And then go back down to what you were doing. Quick washroom breaks, and that's pretty much all they were. So we've been through quite a bit together, which is awesome. So yeah, so I thought I'd tell you guys like how we met and kind of how our love story worked. It's a very short story, so don't get super excited. But so I actually went to high school with my husband. I did not date him in high school, like at all, because he smoked a lot. It wasn't really a thing that I did. Worked in kitchens. I don't think that's a problem. But he just wasn't my type, I guess. I think the bigger part of that was that he had a girlfriend for like most of high school. I think he started dating her in like the middle of grade 10. And then he dated her throughout the rest of high school. I don't think they broke up till the year after high school finished. And for me, I don't know, maybe it's a thing. Maybe it's for you guys too. But like when a guy tells me that he's dating somebody else, he just sort of automatically becomes unattractive. And I don't look at them again in a way that would lead to anything, if that makes any sense. So I just never really thought about it. And then about 8 years ago now, 8.5 I guess, he put up his journeyman ticket for boom truck operator on Facebook. And I wrote back and I said, hey, congratulations, like that's math I don't want to do. And neither one of us to this day knows how we got added onto Facebook together. It was just one of those moments. I don't know. We might have still been with like exes that we were obviously no longer with now, and just sort of like, oh, you saw me and so you added me and then whatever. Neither one of us has any idea. Neither one of us remembers doing it. It wasn't important. It was just, oh, this person I used to know back in high school, no big deal. And so he put up this thing about his journeyman ticket, and I messaged back. Just like on a public forum, no big deal, like congratulations. And then he wrote me back in a private message and he's like, oh my god, I haven't seen you in a decade. We should go for coffee. And that was all it was supposed to be. One of those like, hey, let's go for coffee, we'll catch back up. 6 months later, we'll maybe do the same thing again. Maybe it'll take 5 more years. You know, it's not really a big deal. And I gotta tell you guys, I was coming off the world's worst night shift going into that dinner. I probably would have canceled. Except that the year before, maybe 2 years before that, I was supposed to meet a friend of mine in Edmonton, and I ended up being late coming in. Edmonton's the city that I live in now, but I was not at the time living here. I was coming in to fly out of the city. I was going down south into the States for a couple of days. I sent her a message. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be in town. Do you guys want to meet up? We were going to set up a coffee date. I missed it because I was too late getting out of the town I was living at the time. So I pretty much had to like roll for the plane. And then, so we sent a message back and I was going to meet her up when I came back through town and we were going to go for coffee 4 days later. That's literally the amount of time I was pushing it off for. I was only going to Denver. You don't got to go down for like a whole week and make a deal out of it. We were only gone for 4 days. And then I opened up Facebook when I got to Denver and she died. And it was one of those like, what just happened here moments. Like up until then, all I'd known is that she was a sort of healthy 29-year-old female. I lied. We would have been 27 back then. She was a year younger than me. She might have been 26. I knew she hadn't been like the most healthy. She'd kind of had some health struggles over the years, but like nothing that I knew about that was fatal. And she just passed away out of nowhere. And it sort of hit me like a freight train. Like, oh crap. Like now what? So when he messaged me and he's like, hey, let's go for coffee, I didn't cancel because the last time I did that, I didn't get another chance. And I'm not saying like I had anything to do with her passing away. Like I don't believe in that kind of like negative karma. Just I lost the opportunity to be able to see her again before I lost her. And so when when it came out, dude, we had like a 3:00 in the morning call that took forever and we were up all night and I slept till like I was working in a town about 2 hours from where I live now, or where I was living even at the time. And my sister sent me a message at like 4. She's like, hey, do you want to do dinner tonight? And I looked at the clock and I was like, yeah, I'm 2 hours from town. I can make dinner. Like, let's do this. So I got up, I put pants on, I drove back to the city. We went out for dinner. And while we were at dinner, I was actually texting my now husband. And I said, hey, like I'm back in the city. Do you still want to go for coffee? And he's like, yeah, sure, let's do this. So I told him that like I'm already warm, car's already warm because I'm on like the opposite side of the city from where he lives. Like I'll just come to you, we'll go to a Starbucks near where you live and we'll go catch up. It's no big deal, we met over the Starbucks, it's just over here. And I'd like to say the rest is history. I'm not really sure what happened to that coffee date because it wasn't supposed to be a date. I have no idea what caught me, but when he, oh god, this is an embarrassing thing to say, when he walked away from me, had a pretty nice behind to be looking at, and I was like, oh, when did that happen? That was honestly the thought that rolled through my head, because I remember him from high school, and like, honest to god, the dude did not change between high school and when we met. Like, I don't know what kind of shape-shifting change, time traveler stuff he's got going on, but like, didn't change a bit. When did he get a butt? I have a lot of questions. I'm kind of a butt person. It's kind of my thing. I was like, all right. So we sat down to coffee, and he has the nicest eyes I've ever seen before. I don't remember those from high school either, I'm going to be completely honest with you. And then we sat down to hang out, and it wasn't supposed to be like a date coffee. So we laid out like, yeah, we both want kids, and this is my goals for work, and I have a medical condition called ankylosing spondylitis, and at the time when him and I started dating, it wasn't bad, but I knew it was going to get worse. So like we had this conversation about where it's going to go. He told me he wanted to go to the oil patch. That was kind of his goal and dream because he wanted to work with bigger, badder cranes, and that's just sort of an easy way to get in. And we just kind of like laid it all on the table. It was the best date I've ever had in my whole lifetime, considering it was not meant to be a date. And we went up to go leave because it was 10 o'clock and the Starbucks was closing. And as we're walking out the door, I realized, like, I don't want this to be over yet. Which is the cheesiest thing I think I've said out loud in a while. And so I stopped him. I was like, hey, so my brother and I are going to go for karaoke. It's kind of like our tradition. We do it lots while I'm home. It's my turn to drive anyways, and we're right up by your house. So if you want, because he wasn't working the next day, I'm like, I'll drive over to your place. I'll follow behind you. We'll put you in the car. We'll go get my brother. We'll go out for some karaoke. That way you don't have to drive, so you can have a couple beer. And I'll drive you home at the end of the night. He's like, yeah, no, that sounds awesome. Okay, perfect. So he gets in his car, and I started following him. And then I had to get on the phone with my brother. That was not the plan, like at all. We did go to karaoke on a regular basis. That part was not a lie. That was definitely part of our routine. Him and I used to love going to karaoke together. We probably went once every time or two that I came home. And we loved doing it. So I phoned him up on the way to my now husband's house. Actually, currently the house that I'm standing in right now. And I'm on the phone with my brother and I was like, so here's the deal. I know that next time we go for karaoke, it's supposed to be your turn to drive and it was my turn to drink because that's how we usually switch it around. Every other time, right? I was like, but I have a really big favor to ask. If you want to go out tonight, I'll drive and I'll buy you a beer. And he was like, yeah, okay. What's going on? So my brother played my wingman all night. I just didn't want it to sound like, hey, let's go somewhere else. And then I'm still really not sure what happened. Our first, if you want to call it date, maybe, was him and I going for a drive to find a new garbage can because he just rented the bathroom that I'm standing in. And he needed a new garbage can. Because that's what happens when you're nearly 30 and you go on dates, apparently. In retrospect, hilarious. We went to like 4 places. We ended up finding a garbage can and some other decorative items for his newly renovated bathroom, but it was pretty funny. And then, so that would have been early March. In early February, we called it like official, like Facebook official, put it up, whatever. And then at the end of June, we went to my cousin's wedding. And like I asked him as a joke, I'm like, hey, do you want to go to the island? I got a cousin's wedding coming up. Do you want to come hang out with me for a couple of days? And he's like, yeah, no, I'd love to go. I'm like, what? Really? Who travels across a different province? Like, you had to get on a plane to get here with somebody you've been dating for like 3 weeks at that point, maybe. But he was like, yeah, no, I'll go. I'm like, oh, okay. And I had to like really quickly phone my mom and my sister who I was supposed to be like splitting bills with. And I was like, so funny story. Apparently I'm going to get my own room with this new boy I'm seeing. And they're like, oh, okay, no big deal. Thankfully they were good with it. And just before we went on the trip, we were hanging out on Sunday morning. And I don't know which Sunday. Couldn't even tell you. But on Sunday mornings, our kind of routine when him and I were home was that we go look at show homes. It started one day as like we were going to drive for coffee and then figure out what to do. And a show home advertisement came up on the radio. And that's just kind of how we like to spend our Sundays. We're going to buy any. It was just fun to go look around. So we're going out for Sunday. And he's like, I know where I want to go this time around. And I was driving. And so I let him direct me to wherever we were going. And we pulled into a Starbucks on the west end of town. And I was like, okay. And he's like, do you want to get out? And do you want to go in? Yeah, I could use a coffee. Why not? He's like, no. Well, the other way. And there was a Spence Diamonds over there. This is like mid-June. Same year. And I was like, oh. I'm like, are you asking me to marry you? He's like, well, not yet. I don't have a ring. And I was like, I guess that's fair. It turns out he looked through what I would lovingly call my jewelry stash, and it's a Ziploc bag that had a couple of things in it. When I went back for EMT school, which is just before him and I started seeing each other, I went homeless for about 18 months. More like houseless. I was in Calgary staying with a cousin while I was in school. I was up north when I was at work, and somebody else was paying for my housing. And for like the 3 days I made it back to my home city for, I just didn't bother renting a place. So I rented like a hotel room where I cashed with family, and it wasn't a big deal. But it did mean that I downsized a lot. Like a lot. I lived out of a 5x5 storage unit for 18 months and a P.O. box. You can't have a lot of things. So I had this like little Ziploc bag with like 2 necklaces and a couple of rings in it. Like my high school grad ring. I got a ring from my grandmother that's like a costume jewelry piece. That was it. That was all that was in the bag. And apparently he couldn't quite guess what my taste was off of what was in the bag, which is fair. So him and I spent most of the day hanging out at the Spence Diamonds looking at rings. And we picked one out. I think we actually went back the next day to go pick it out and do all the stuff because we were kind of at the end of the day by the time that we'd really figured what we were looking for. So we went back the next day and we went and bought it. And I got kicked out of the room when they were talking about how much it was and all that kind of fun stuff, which I thought was really funny. Like, I saw the tag on the ring. Like, I know what it's... Oh, okay. But they kicked me out anyways. Apparently it's like a man thing. I'm not really sure. And we picked up the ring. We actually got it a little bit early. And we picked it up the day before, or the day we were going to the airport. Like, we were on our way to the south side to the airport when they phoned and said, hey, your ring's ready if you want to swing by and pick it up. So we went and got it. And then he asked me to marry him when we were on the break front out in Victoria at a place called Ogden Point. I'll show you if you want. This is the ring that he bought me. Oh, is that gonna... I don't know if that's gonna actually focus very well or not. He's got pretty good taste. I guess I do too, because we sort of both picked it out. But anyways, so that's my wedding band, or my engagement ring. And so he asked me to marry him on July 27th? Might be the 29th. I'd have to go check. I know he asked me to marry him before my cousin's wedding, and then because most of my family was going to be there and we didn't want to like pull and detract away from her wedding because that's not fair, we actually left the ring in the hotel room, still in the little box, tucked in a drawer, just to sort of make sure that it didn't draw an immense amount of attention. Like my mom knew, my sister knew, like our immediate circle knew, but it wasn't going to detract from her. So I phoned up my cousin the next day and I told her about it and she was ecstatic and that was wonderful, but I didn't want to like pull any focus away. And we had a great time at the wedding. He taught himself how to two-step. My heavy metal husband that likes to headbang taught himself to two-step at the wedding because he knew I liked to dance. How cute is that? And then I married him the following August. So we've been together for 8.5 years, and yesterday was our 7-year wedding anniversary. So it was a little bit quick. And you know what? I've never looked back. He's amazing for me. When I started struggling with my own mental health, he's the one that made me go see a doctor. I'll tell that story another day. But he's the one that made me finally go get help. He's been with me through miscarriages. He's been with me through quarantine. He's been with me through everything. The man is amazing, and I love him to pieces. My in-laws are also fantastic. My mother-in-law get along fabulously. My mother-in-law and my mom also get along fabulously, and sometimes I get a picture of the two of them out for lunch, and I wasn't invited. Who does that? Actually, my sister sent me a picture once because she got invited out to that lunch, but I was at work that day, and I couldn't make it. Look at a random photo with "I've replaced you." I'm like, oh. But yeah, over the years, my brother got married. His anniversary would have been 5 years ago now. And then my sister just celebrated her 3rd wedding anniversary this year. So we're kind of like staggered out by 2 years, which I think is pretty funny. It helps me remember how long they've been married for too, as long as I can remember how long I've been married for. It's really the math that needs to happen. Yeah, hold on. Okay. I'm glad you liked it. I'm sort of sappy. He's kind of a sweetheart. So, I mean, the infertility thing sucks. It may not work, and we may never be parents. But I am married to an amazing man. So, hold on for a second. I gotta move this around a little bit so I can actually see what you guys are typing. But yeah, I'm sorry it's been so long since I kind of got on the go. We had like that rush up to final exams where I almost couldn't like walk away from my computer screen. It was just sort of like having a mental breakdown and studying really hard. And then as soon as that was over, I would jump back into like full-time work again. I'm on the ambulance. I'm back teaching first aid again. And just like everything kind of exploded a little bit. So it's been a little hectic around here. I am going to try to get back onto once a week. But I think Saturdays are not going to work for me because I usually work on the ambulance on Saturdays now. But I think if we go to like Tuesday nights at like 5 p.m., which is kind of when we started this, that's been a while. But I think we set it up like 5 p.m. on Tuesdays. I usually work my day job, which means that I'm up and I have pants and usually makeup on. Not all the time. I'm not going to lie. This is not a filter. Just some days I wear out of makeup. No big deal. Oh, I did it today too. I lied. So anyways, but I think that will probably work best. Just because I'd like to give you guys some regular updates. I think it'd be funny if we did like a once a week, like, what did I learn at nursing school today? Kind of a bit of information. So I'm still waiting for my husband to come home so we can celebrate our anniversary. He's stuck at work. Theoretically speaking, he comes home Thursday, but apparently they're having a staffing issue, so he may be stuck for another week. It's a little sad. But when my husband was like, yeah, no, that's going to be okay. Like, I would appreciate it if you could find something else, but if you can't, you can't. If it's an emergency, I'll stay. His supervisor was like, you'd really miss your anniversary? And my husband's like, I haven't been at home on my actual anniversary date in the 7 years we've been married for, except for last year, because he was unemployed, sitting around at home with COVID. It's just kind of the way that, like, oil field life kind of works. The money's great, but there's some sacrifices that are made, both from him and from me. And that's just the way Wellfield life is. So he'll get here when he gets here. So if it's a week, then we wait a week and it's no big deal. We'll celebrate anyways. If he stays for a week, they pay him overtime for the week, so that's not a bad idea. Which means we might have the money to do like something a little bit nicer, a little bit fancier for dinner. But that's probably all it's going to be anyways. Dinner, maybe some wine. We'll kind of go from there. Probably nothing like too wild and crazy. But I think this has gone long enough. It's like 30 minutes now. Some of you guys have stayed along for this whole video, so thank you. I missed you guys. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad I'm back online and I can chat with you guys again. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Okay, bye.